Good morning and welcome to our 298th weekly Webcast. My goodness, we're going to be at 300 in 2 weeks. I started doing these weekly calls back in 2018. Now, my humble goal in these calls is to help you take your career, your portfolio, etc., your happiness to the next level. So you can ask me any questions. Ask me business questions, finance questions, personal growth questions, how to get promoted questions. And my humble goal is to help you take your career, your portfolio, your company, etc., to the next level. Now, without further ado, let's begin and thank you. Now, you'll notice that the splash screen today was a video that said never give up. Now, for my three boys, they're older now, but for my three boys, since the second they were born, I would always say two sentences that they would complete immediately, and they still do today. The first sentence is, I say you never, and immediately they say, give up. And the next one I say is, you always finish, and they immediately say what you start. So anyway, that splash screen means a lot to me. All right, let's talk about Bitcoin. Bitcoin just passed $100,000 per share and actually could go up to $1 million at some point in my lifetime. It's plausible. So why is Bitcoin up a lot today? Well, there's a couple of reasons. And by the way, incoming President Donald Trump just posted on social media, all in caps, okay? Congratulations, Bitcoiners. $100,000. You're welcome. That's what he said. Together, we'll make America great again. Now, what also caused investors to get even more excited about Bitcoin this morning is that a former cryptocurrency lobbyist, named Paul Atkins, was just announced by Donald Trump to be the next head of the Securities and Exchange Commission. This is a big deal. Now, for those of you not familiar with lobbyists, what they do is they try to convince politicians to do stuff. So he was the co-chair of a cryptocurrency lobbying firm. And he's a big deal as well. He's well recognized in financial circles. And I think he was head of the SEC years ago as well. And this is a massively positive thing for cryptocurrencies. Now, one of the issues with cryptocurrencies is there's no regulation, right? So when you go public, and this is one of the case studies we do in my MBA program, but when Facebook or Meta now went public back in 2012, they had to file this. Now, this is an investment offering memorandum, which investment bankers and lawyers create. And it tells you everything about the company, financial statements, everything, including risks. Now, the problem with cryptocurrencies historically, even to today, is they haven't been regulated. They've been regulated by mathematics, if at all. And one of the issues with investing in cryptocurrencies is we don't feel comfortable investing because there is no regulation. Now, it's my hope that this new SEC chairman will start to regulate cryptos and categorize them as securities and not as currencies. And that can have big tax implications that are great for all of us. Now, if cryptocurrencies are classified as a currency and you buy and sell and you lose money at the end of the year, then it doesn't matter what gains you had earlier in the year, you can lose all of that and more. And I know that sounds elusive, but for more details, you can always go search my name on YouTube for my cryptocurrency interview on NBC on television several years ago. That was me showing off. I was on TV. I was nervous as hell, but I humbly did okay, I think. Now, another thing that's great about cryptocurrencies this year is that the SEC, the current administration, not Paul Atkins, but the SEC made it legal for cryptocurrencies to issue ETFs. Okay, and this is a huge deal, and I'm going to explain why. Okay, so back in 2004, the ETF for gold was created. That's ticker GLD. And this is a massive deal back then, because what that meant is institutional investors and retail investors can buy gold, and it's easy to buy and easy to sell, and you know it's real. Okay, a reputable firm is behind ticker GLD. And so what I used to do for gold is I'd go into a seedy part of town and I'd buy gold bars, but I didn't know if they were real. So I always cut my order in half right before I purchased it. Now, let's compare and contrast that to the way you used to and currently still buy cryptocurrencies. A lot of times you have to use what's called a cold storage wallet. And this one here, it's still in the packaging. I didn't open it up because since Bitcoin had an ETF, I've started buying Bitcoin as an ETF instead of through these things. But this is a Ledger Nano. And the way this works is it's really complicated. You set it up, you have to write down a gazillion passwords, and then you lose confidence. And whenever there's friction between the seller and the buyer either doesn't buy or they cut their order in half, for example. So I used to always cut my order in half because I wasn't confident this thing was going to work. Well, now that reputable companies are or will be issuing ETFs with cryptocurrencies in them, and now that Paul Atkins, who's a former lobbyist, a co-chair of a cryptocurrency lobbyist firm, is the head of the SEC, and now that, and even Donald Trump, he wrote all in caps, he basically said, I support cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. This is incredibly positive. Yeah. Amazing. All right, let me get to your questions. All right, first question is from Animals. How are you? Hi, Chris. Hey. The average ROI, return on investment, for angel investing, meaning people that invest before venture capitalists do in a startup, is from, probably you meant to say, is increasing from 20 to 25% annually. Do you recommend it for people who have business experience? How diversified would you recommend the portfolio to be? Yeah, I don't recommend doing angel investments unless you have an insane amount of money, and investing 50, 100K means nothing to us. The reason I say that is most investments go to zero, okay, that are in the private or they're in the venture capital sector. And the way it works is the first investor is called an angel investor or a seed investor, like they plant the seed. And usually that means the company's very early stage. They usually don't have a product. Maybe they have a proof of concept or an MVP, meaning minimal viable product. Then, if the company is successful, and most companies fail within 5 years of being founded, but if that company is successful, then a venture capital firm like Sequoia, if it's a good idea and a good management team, will invest in what's called the A round, okay? Then a year or two later, when that startup runs out of money, another firm like Kleiner Perkins will invest in the B round. Then you have C, D, sometimes E. And then if and only if the company is very successful, to go public. Now, it is so hard to make money on these startup ideas. I used to work in venture capital. I humbly had a position in Facebook in my venture capital fund years ago. Everybody did in the Valley, right? I lucked out. But the probability of finding a Facebook is almost zero. It's tiny. In fact, the top 10 venture capital firms on the planet, only 1% of their investments become unicorns, meaning companies with, market cap over $1 billion. 1%. And keep in mind that the later stage the investment is, the higher the probability that you'll make money on it. So we're talking here about angel investing, how risky it is. Now, I have to talk quickly about Sequoia. So Sequoia, who I partnered with before in the past when I worked in VC, it's the number one venture capital firm in history. Now, remember I said that 1% of all investments become unicorns for the top 10 VC companies? For Sequoia, it's 5%. It's ridiculously good. Like, it's unbelievable. And what I did actually was there was a company called Cohesity. And Sequoia led the A round, and when I worked in venture capital, we led the B round. I had a board seat before I quit to teach and do happier stuff. And when I was at Sequoia, I had the opportunity to sit down with Doug Leone, who is the top partner there. He's a rock star. And I asked Doug, I sat down for an hour and a half. It was a great one-on-one meeting. And I asked him, what kind of people do you invest in? Like, you guys are so successful. Please help me understand why. And I'm going to butcher his response, but he said something along the lines of this. We like to hire people and invest in startup founders that think that they're not good enough. And he didn't say insecure, but that was what I was thinking. And I said, can you tell me more? He said, well, maybe something happened to them earlier in their life where they don't feel they're good enough. And maybe they have a chip on their shoulder. And these are great people to invest in, because they're not going to sell their company for a couple $1 million or even $100 billion. They want to put a dent in the universe. And I'll give you an example. There's Elon Musk. So Elon Musk, when he was younger, he had the crap kicked out of him. Poor guy, when he was a kid, for being a little bit different. And he wants to prove the world wrong. It's not about money for him. It's about putting his, as Steve Jobs called it, dent in the universe. And so if you're going to consider investing in a startup, and I don't recommend doing it, but if you're going to do it, I recommend doing most of your due diligence on the management team, because the jockey is always more important. The jockey is always more important than the horse, always. And in venture capital, we'd always rather invest in an A management team with a B business model instead of investing in a B management team with an A business model. Always invest in people. And that's something I don't teach in business school. Because what is a company? It's about people. Quick side note. I'll never invest in a company, especially a tech company, where all the founders are gone. And if you want more details on that, go to venturebeat.com or search my name at venturebeat.com. VentureBeat is the #1 venture capital news source. And I wrote an article saying that investors should run for the exit when the founders all leave. Always invest in people. Now, if you're given the opportunity to invest in a startup, and it's a friend of yours or a family member, be careful. I want you to tell yourself this, not out loud, but in your head. Why am I so lucky to be given this opportunity? It might be because nobody else will invest. And I've had friends that have worked at the very top venture capital firms, and they're in senior positions. And it took them 10 years before they got a bonus. It's brutal. So really be careful with that stuff. Yeah. All right, let me move on to the next question. Animals wrote, what presents would you suggest for a man like you? And yeah, so I've got a couple here. Yeah, right here is one. I'm not suggesting this, but I'm just going to show you. So one of my amazing students from Texas, Kendall, she sent me this. It's really nice, actually. Thank you, Kendall, so much. I just got it. It's a Blue Jays hat. I'm a big Blue Jays fan. I like the color blue, as you can clearly tell. It was signed by a former Yankee that played for the Blue Jays named Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who has the longest name ever in baseball, and it should be illegal. We call him IKF. Yeah, but it's really nice. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I got. Personalized gift. You know how much I love sports. Another student of mine sent me this as well. Mugs work really well. Now, I've got a skill testing question for all of you. And whoever is the first person to answer this question correctly, the first person to type it correctly, I see, gets my silver MBA program for free. It's $999, or you can do $99 a month. You get it for free. Now, before I ask this question, you cannot answer the question if you already bought silver, okay? Or any of my MBA products. All right, here's the question. You ready? Okay. Why is it that when you go to a store and you want to buy a mug with a letter on it, there's 2 letters that are always sold out? So my question for you is this. What 2 letters and why? Okay. So whoever answers that first wins my MBA program. Now, my next MBA program, my next gold and platinum MBA program is going to start, it says there, on January 27th. You can always go to my website, harounventures.com, to learn more about it. But let me get back to questions here. Okay. All right. All right, next up we have got here, hey Shahar, how are you? Ani chotze kafi achshav, yet again. And this is my son. I'm a proud dad. He's at UCSB, and my other son is 3rd year at Berkeley. And then my youngest son is Dylan. He's 14 going on 40. He's in high school. Yeah, they're like sons to me, really. Yeah. All right, let me get to the next question. Okay, here's some of the answers for the cups to win the silver MBA. Lugman wrote, I and you because of couples, no. Dan, but welcome to the call. Dan wrote J and L because those are the most common names, no. Good, no, that's not right, but maybe I'm hinting that something you wrote there is somewhat right. Yeah, but those are not to the letters. So you guys got 24 letters left. Now, whenever I start to lose my voice, if you guys are giving a presentation, I get this product called Clear Voice. I feel like I'm on the Truman Show now. Yeah, I'm not sponsored by anybody. Okay, so give me a second. All right. And I did have a sponsorship with a company recently for the first time ever, but I'm starting to get rid of that. Yeah. All right. All right. Next question is here. Okay. So Dan wrote, are trading courses by verified traders worth it, or should I learn on my own via books and other ways? Yeah. So I am very much against day trading. And I say this with a lot of my heart. I get down on my knees because I really do care. Hey there, I'm small. Please don't day trade, okay? If trading to you means, swing trading over 3 or 4 months, that's okay. Please don't day trade because you will lose all your money. I promise you that, because stocks go up and down on a daily basis for random reasons we can't forecast, like what Donald Trump might say next, or saber rattling between North and South Korea, right? Where they had a crisis of confidence and declared martial law. Donald Trump, don't get any ideas. Sorry, that sort of thing. So you can't, I'm going to get myself in trouble now, but you can't really forecast this stuff. I want to be a long-term investor. But the best way to learn about investing from a high-level perspective is to do the following 2 things, which I do every morning. Okay, so this morning I was in the shower, and I always do this. Alexa, Wall Street Journal news.
From the Wall Street Journal. Amazon Q Business
Alexa,
is generative AI.
Stop. Yeah. I tried to tell her to skip the commercials, but it didn't work because she hears skip capitalism. Okay, sorry. The second thing I do every morning is this. This is great. Alexa, finance news today.
From Bloomberg.
News when you want it with Bloomberg News
Alexa,
now.
stop. And for those of you that have ALEXA, I'm so sorry if I made your speaker go on there. So I would do that. Another thing I would do to learn about stocks and investing is I would listen to earnings calls. And what I would also do is I'd create your own financial models. Now, I teach all this stuff in my MBA program. Let me quickly show you something I'm going to be releasing to my MBA program students later this month. It's a brand new course I haven't spoken about yet. And it's going to be all about financial statement analysis, especially when it comes to footnotes. Now, the way the course is going to work is there's going to be a beginner track, intermediate track, genius, and all lessons track. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to enter in a company name. Okay, Apple or whatever company you want. Then you're going to select right here. And we use AI a lot in this too. It's fun. Okay. And I love using Excel, hell, as you guys know. You can also select the grade level to explain the accounting and finance stuff to you. University level, hedge fund, mutual fund level as well, if you want to come up with long and short ideas, etc. Okay. Then what we're going to do is we're going to do tons of case studies on companies like NVIDIA. We're going to analyze their financial statements, okay, with a lot of bad dad humor. Who's their auditor? We're also going to analyze Supermicro. We're going to do also an analysis on Warren Buffett's company, Berkshire Hathaway. We're also I'm going to ask you a ton of questions about the company you choose to invest in. Okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to answer these questions, and all this stuff will feed into 2 places. Number 1, a 1-page executive summary. Okay. And number 2, a detailed investment write-up. Okay, and you're going to score everything too. It's going to be intuitive. I'll explain some more details later. But the reason why I'm creating this course, and I'm creating the course with Gary, one of my Platinum MBA graduates, who's a CPA and investment banker and inspires me. He's a great friend of mine as well. The reason I'm creating this course, and it's coming out later this month for MBA students, is because the problem with when you analyze financial statements is, we look at the 3 major financial statements: income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement. But in the annual report, there's tons of footnotes that explain so much more. And I want to demystify the word demystify, and also the entire notes process or footnotes process within the annual reports, right? And what's going to come out of it, and this is still beta right here, again, it's a 1-page summary, a detailed write-up as well. And this will help you guys with your analysis, from a forensic accounting perspective, and much more. And this is another spreadsheet that my existing MBA students have. All right, let me get back to more questions here. All right, moving on. All right, so Jim wrote, hey, Chris, hey, Jim. In a Bitcoin transaction, I understand that before the transaction can post to the ledger, meaning the digital ledger online blockchain, before it can post a ledger, a mathematical problem must be solved. Is this correct? Technically, yes. So the way that Bitcoin works is there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoins ever created by the year 2140. And a lot of people are thinking, well, that's kind of ridiculous. Like, I won't be able to afford a single Bitcoin. It's over 100 grand now. Well, what's going to happen is the Bitcoins are going to be split into 1,000th or millionth increments. Some people call it a Satoshi, etc. And whenever you mine a Bitcoin, okay, and I used to mine Bitcoins using a Raspberry Pi many years ago. I'm dating myself. Then it got complicated, so I used a laptop, then a desktop, then a supercomputer, and then eventually I was just priced out of it. It's just too hard to do. But whenever you mine a Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency, what you're doing is this. You're solving a problem and you're making the algorithm stronger. What does that mean? Well, let's say that you broke your leg, okay? You broke your leg, it's in a cast. Well, what happens is after your leg heals, the bone actually becomes stronger. It's the same thing with mining. What you're actually doing is you're trying to find a security vulnerability and break it. And then once that vulnerability is uncovered, then Bitcoin's algorithm and security infrastructure grows back stronger. So that's basically what it means. Yeah. And one of the great things about Bitcoin, and there are risks, is that there's a dearth, meaning a limit of supply. I usually don't like investing in anything if the supply is unlimited, usually. And it's like my grandfather, who's up there with my little sister, Katie, in heaven. Hey, guys. My grandfather used to always say to me, Chrissy, buy land, they're not making any more. So if in doubt, focus on supply relative to demand. You want supply to be going down, or at least staying constant, and demand, of course, going up, which is certainly what's happening right now with Bitcoin. Okay. All right. Next up, Peter wrote, hey, Chris, what do you think of economists? Do you have a preference? Neoliberal economics or Keynesian? Yeah. All right. So I don't teach supply and demand. I know it, sort of, but I don't teach it. Why? Because in the real world, nobody uses supply and demand curves and all that crap, unless you're an economist, right? And I'm going to butcher this, but there's a famous saying that economists have successfully predicted 74 of the past 8 recessions. Yeah, it's theoretical. So I don't really follow that theoretical stuff. Everything I teach and talk about are practical things you can use right away. Yeah. I'm probably more of a libertarian, to be honest. Yeah. Oh, Center of the Board, thank you for that $10 donation. I appreciate it. That'll go directly to the schools we build in Africa. Thank you. God bless you. You didn't have to do that. You wrote, hi, Chris. I need help with understanding some of the MBA material. Who can help me? Yeah. Well, the donation's got to be bigger than that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Sure. So if you're in the Silver MBA program, what you can do is today at 10 a.m., when this call is over, meaning in 1.5 hours, every week at 10 a.m. Pacific time, you click on the very first lecture of the curriculum, and there's a link to a Zoom call. It's a 1-hour Zoom call, and I can answer any question you want to there. If you're in the silver or gold, if you're in the gold or platinum or diamond program, that's a 3-hour call. And go to your curriculum for more details. And of course, you can do one-on-ones if you're in platinum, as well as diamond. Yeah. Okay. I thought I'd mix up the camera angles here. This is how messy my office really is, right? And this here, we're building out our deck as well out here. We're planting a bunch more redwoods as well because some trees fell and I don't want to see my neighbor's house. They're great people, but you know. And this room, by the way, it used to be Airbnb, right? So here you see that the original paint, I painted it black so there's less reflection. And because I run my own company, what I do, and you got to talk to your accountant first, please. What I do is I actually have my company, Haroun Education Ventures Incorporated, S Corp, rent this room from me, from my wife and I. Talk to your accountant first. And my humble goal is for my students to be able to, start their own companies. And the reason I say this is because the tax write-offs are amazing. Okay. And obviously you got to do it legally. You got to hire an accountant. But the richest people in America and in the world, obviously they're self-employed. But the reason they're insanely wealthy, one of the reasons is because they pay less in taxes. It's not fair. It is what it is. If you can't beat them, join them. And so the way it works is you can write off a lot of stuff. And so Donald Trump, in the first televised debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump back in 2016, she criticized him, for not paying taxes and everything. And he basically said, look, it's totally legal. Because of depreciation, I can write that stuff off. And that's why I'm very adamant that you all start to invest in real estate so you pay less in taxes. The richest 400 families in America pay only about 20% tax. It is what it is. And whenever you have your own company, if you're making money, your goal is to try to minimize your net income. Okay. So what you do is, for me, for example, I'll spend a lot of money on research and development. So I'll buy a nice new computer. This is why people have their own companies that make money humbly, like I do. Always have new stuff. I'll buy a new computer, and therefore I'll pay less in taxes. And there's lots of other nuances, which I talk about in a lot of detail in my courses. Now, I also have a real estate course that I recently released for my MBA students. If you're in my MBA programs, go to the last lecture to access it. And I help you write a business plan on your primary residential real estate, as well as your investment properties. And it's my humble goal that all my students start their own companies, right? So that you don't work for somebody else that pays you this much money to make their dreams become a reality. And it's also my humble goal that my students in 10 to 20 years make more money from their real estate investment properties than they do from their annual salary. And when you make a lot of money, what you do is this. You obviously have your own company. You have an accountant do your personal and business taxes, and you try to pay as little legally in taxes as possible. And if there's anybody in this call, right, I don't care if you have your own company or not, if there's anybody in this call that does their own taxes, and I get down my knees for the second of many times today, I'm begging you, please hire an accountant. And the reason why I say you have to hire an accountant is because doing your own taxes is like doing surgery on yourself. With new government administrations, whether it's presidential, prime minister based, Congress, members of parliament, whatever. With every new administration, the tax rules change. We can't keep up with this stuff. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me get to the next question here. All right. Next up, Mahmoud. Hey, how are you? Wrote, and actually I interviewed an economist a year and a half ago on my channel. Go to my prior weekly webcast named Mahmoud. And he was good. He's more of a strategist though. Okay. So Mahmoud wrote, hey Chris, you said you'll make a video about The Big Short. That's Canadian for about, sorry. And when will Billions be back? Yeah, a couple things. So the Big Short is coming up next. Okay. So there's a couple more I'm doing. The Big Short is going to be the next one. Okay, I'm working hard on it. It's coming soon. Okay. If you want to understand how bonds work, though, you can always go and watch one of my Billions vlogs on bonds. In terms of the Billions series, I am going to do every single one of them. I'm going to start up again in a couple of weeks. Yeah. I put everything on hold just for personal reasons, family reasons. Something happened this summer in my family. I miss you, Katie. And also, yeah. Okay. All right, moving on. All right. And by the way, the writer, the co-creator of Billions reached out to me and had nice things to say about the videos as well. Yeah, it's cool. And a lot of people that worked on the show. All right. JK wrote, hey, Chris, best blessings to you and yours. God bless you more. Thank you. Andre wrote, hey, Chris, first time seeing you on the call. Hope you join us again. I'm an 18-year-old working full-time as a researcher at a crypto firm. Cool. And I'm doing university part-time. Any tips in general? And what is your course about? I'm always investing in my learning. Yeah, the best investment you can make is investment in yourself. Yeah. I would think long-term, this goes for everybody in the call as well. In 10 years, where do you want to be career-wise? And there's a gap. And then you got to focus on filling that gap. So if you tell me what your 10-year goals are, I can tell you what to do next. But regardless of what your goals are, I want you to sit down with lots of people in your company that are more senior than you are, ask them for a coffee, and get mentored by them. Also, if anybody wants to get promoted, please do the following. Okay. You'll notice if you work in a company, you keep your head down, you work hard, you look around, you're like, WTF, why the face? Why are these people getting promoted faster than I am? Well, the reason is this. It's really simple. They ask. Closed mouths don't get fed. So how do they ask for a promotion or a raise? Well, the timing is an issue, but here's exactly when you go in for the kill. Okay? Strike while the iron's hot. So your boss comes up to you, let's say, and says, Jonathan, great job on this project, right? They compliment you. What you do is you immediately say this. Do you have time for a thank you? Do you have time for a coffee? Then in that meeting, you say this, if true. Thanks a lot for those nice comments you had. We've accomplished a lot as a team. I'm really bullish about the future. There's so much more we're going to accomplish. I want to ask you, please, just for advice. So as you know, it's very expensive to raise a family here in the Bay Area. And I want to humbly provide, and don't bring this picture with you. Yeah, I want to humbly provide for my family and give them the best standard of living. And so I want to ask you, please, what additional value do I need to add to our team in order to be considered for a promotion or a raise? And what they're going to do is they're going to give you criteria for it, right? And you're going to write everything down. And then you're going to thank them for their time. And then when the bill comes for the coffee, this is crucial. You have to do this. I have alligator hands. I can't find my wallet. And T-Rex can't do push-ups. I'm just kidding. And then what you do is, 6 months later when they congratulate you again on a job well done, what you can do is, again, ask them for another meeting. Do you have time for coffee? And when you sit down with them, you say something along the lines of, like, make sure you look like a team player. And we've accomplished a lot together, yada, yada. Last time we met, you gave me criteria for these 5 things, etc. And you speak slower, obviously. I'm humbled to say I've fulfilled them, and I'd like to please ask you for a promotion. I know it feels uncomfortable, but I promise you, everybody around you that is getting promoted faster than we are has done this behind closed doors. In every company, all vice presidents, do you know why they're there? Because they asked. And they asked at the right time. It's like a kid. It's like Dylan when he was younger. He'd say, can I have candy? I'd say no. He'd wait like 3 seconds. He goes, how about now? Right? He's relentless. Like I am, a pit bull on a pork chop for my students. You just got to keep asking over and over and over again. Asking you'll receive. Remember, closed mouths don't get fed. Okay. Okay. Hey, Mildred, how are you? It's a pleasure to see you. I'm looking forward to our next call so I can humbly help you with your Instagram stuff. I made a couple more Instagram ads, and I want to show them to you as well. So Mildred from Texas as well wrote, I hesitated before asking, but I want to ask you something that's been on my mind. How do I go about finding my real purpose? Yes. So for me, I always have the inclination to think that I want to leave this world making my mark on the world, making it a better place. It's not about money, right? I mean, a little bit of it is. Of course, you can donate and help people. It's about your time. And so for me, my legacy, my raison d'etre, my purpose, my passion, all that stuff is to die broke and to build schools. So my goal is to build 1,000 schools. We did one last year in Rwanda. This is Kenya. I was just there recently. Here's Marin, one of my students, my board members, board advisors. And then down here, this is the one we finished in Rwanda last year. Okay. So that's my passion, my purpose. It can't just be about money. Like if you look at a guy like Elon Musk, it's not just about money. Aside from the big court case he lost about his compensation. It's about making a difference for the world, for humanity, whatever, longer term. So he bought X, Twitter, because he was worried that, opinions were going too far to the left. And I agree with him. He's looking to, colonize Mars at some point. This is where lots of people leave the webcast. he's looking to colonize Mars because he's worried about humanity longer term. So there's got to be a higher purpose. And for me, the way I think about it, I'm a religious person. I believe there's one God and there's so many great religions. But for me, whenever I fail, I don't see it as a failure. I kind of have a positive attitude about it. And I see it as me being guided in a different direction. And for those that have had failures in business, and you'll never make it big unless you fail a lot of times. But for those that have failures in business, you won't understand this now, but many years from now, you'll look back and say that was a blessing in disguise because it guides you down this path. Yeah. Okay. All right. But Mildred, I love your business model and what you're doing, and we're going to scale it together. Or your money back, I promise you. Okay. All right, next up, Lukeman wrote, nope. Okay, people are still guessing about the letters. Okay, somebody got it right. Okay, so earlier in the webcast, I said I'm going to give away my Silver MBA program to one student that tells me when you go to a store, when you buy mugs for your parents or for your friends or whatever, there's letters on them. There's 2 that are always sold out. And I said, whoever tells me first gets the Silver MBA for free. And it looks like KP got it right. You wrote D and M. The reason why it's hard to find mugs that says D and M is because people buy it for mom and dad. They're always sold out, as we say in Canada. All right, now for the Silver MBA for free for you, please email me from your email address. I'll look for KP as well. Email me at support@harounventures.com, and I'll give it to you for free, of course. Yeah. And if anybody is interested in one-on-one mentoring from me or joining one of my programs, I love to talk to my students. Just go to harouneducation.com and then schedule a Zoom call with me down here. Or at harouneducation.com, click here on MBA Facts. And then you can just learn more about this stuff. Yeah. Okay. And I think I screwed that up. HarounMBA.com. Schedule a call with me clicking this button. The older I get, the better I was, folks. I just had a senior moment there. You saw it live. Schedule a call with me here or go to MBA FAQs at HarounEducation.com to just learn more about all that stuff. Okay. All right. So let me move on now to the next question. Okay, Psyched Life wrote, hey, Chris, I've got many business ideas. Awesome. Now, you wrote, how do you pick one of them and work on it instead of thinking I can work on all of them? Yeah. So failing to plan is plan to fail. I don't want anybody to ever start a company without first writing a thorough business plan. And the reason I say that is because you'll know you have a good idea if you literally finish the business plan. Now, starting a company without doing your preparation by writing the business plan is illogical. Please don't do it because it'll impact your health, your wealth, your relationships. It can ruin your life. I want you to do it right. So how do you do it right? Well, I've got, as part of the MBA program, I have a venture capital boot camp. And it's 15 hours of the 500-hour program. And what I do is I ask you tons of questions. You fill out this template here. Okay. And then after you fill out this template, a massive business plan is printed for you, as well as investor slides. We talk about everything, your go-to-market strategy, financials, everything. So I ask you to answer just tons and tons of questions. Okay. And then based on the questions that you answer, it's all put automatically into your business plan. And this is based on my experience working in venture capital. I was also, so at Stanford University, there's one venture capital class that it's so hard to get into. And the professor is a guy named Ilya Strebulev. He's the best VC dude on the planet at Stanford. And he used to have me guest lecture in his class a lot and mentor a lot of his students as well with their startup ideas. And so everything I've done in my career, is in the MBA program, including my failures and successes. And I help you to write a business plan based on that. Now, if you're interested in learning more about the venture mindset, which is written by Ilya, you can always go and watch a previous webcast where I interviewed him on my webcast. And the way to do that is just go to my website here, okay? Then you're going to click here on, let me see here, About, and then Weekly Webcasts, okay? And then you're going to scroll down, and then you'll see a picture of Ilya on one of these. Oh my God, look at that. Here he is here, yeah. So this is the one here. That was week 272. And so I interviewed Ilya. He's a rock star. He's a great guy. Look how big he is, man. It's Stanford. Awful humor. But anyway, you guys get the idea. Okay. Good guy, too. All right, let me move on now to the next question. I'm so sorry. Dan said when you said ALEXA, my ALEXA and my host answered. I was once on a panel, okay? And it was at a hedge fund conference. And there's a lot of hedge fund analysts and PMs in the audience. And they were jerks, right? A lot of them. Because what I was saying was controversial about a position they were short that I liked. And so what I said was this, and this stopped everybody from talking. I said this, SIRI, I said the word back then, SIRI, set an alarm every morning at 2 a.m. And that got the entire audience off my case. They were, yeah. Hi, I'm 7.5. All right. All right, Viking Financial wrote, I'm in a mastermind group. And for those who are not familiar with that, it means a bunch of people that meet online every now and then that in the same kind of business, and they ask each other questions. I'm in a mastermind group, but it's hard to share big ideas in fear of theft or plagiarism. Yeah. Do you have any ideas on how to avoid this with the legal team? Yeah. So what I recommend doing is go to LegalZoom.com. I'm not sponsored by anybody. Go to LegalZoom.com and set up a call with them so that you can file either a patent, a trademark, or a copyright. And I did it recently for a new business I'm starting. It's under my umbrella company. And it will cost you probably $400 for a trademark. In terms of copyright, it's a lot cheaper. It might cost you $100 if you do it yourself. Copyright protects, stuff that's in print or online videos. And if you have a process that you want to protect, that's a patent. That takes longer. And the intellectual property courts in the United States are so backed up. And that's why whenever you see patent pending, that's almost good enough. Yeah. And if you have more questions, please let me know. Yeah. And before starting any company, make sure you register your company name. I'm going to show you how to check to see if your name is already taken. All right. So I'm going to go to uspto.gov. That's United States Patent and Trademark Office. Okay. And then what you can do is you can do a search for patents or you can do a search for trademarks. So what you want to do is you want to enter in whatever it is you want to trademark, right? Like before you make the website, make sure that you search here first and get a lawyer to do it for you, please, to see if it's taken. Okay, so for example, Haroun Education Ventures is taken by me, etc. Yeah. By the way, this one here, it says dead. The reason this one didn't work is because I created a course years ago called the Complete YouTube Course. And Google, which has an army of lawyers, what they did was they saw the name YouTube was in the title. And they were cool about it. They emailed me and my lawyer and said, you could still use that name, but you can't trademark it because we own YouTube. Right? So that's why it says dead here. Yeah. So anyway, if you have more questions about that, let me know. Thanks. Okay. All right. Next up, I've got here, Jimmy K, thank you. You didn't have to do that. Thank you for the $20 Canadian donation. God bless you. And I hope to share a Tim Hortons with you one day. Tim Hortons in Canada has 70% market share. It's a rite of passage. In America, Starbucks has 40% share. This is a big deal in Canada. We're very proud. Proudly used to be Canadian. Thank you for that. God bless. All right, moving on to Ultra Boom. Wrote, hey, Chris, I'm from Malaysia. Pleasure to meet you. I'm currently invested in my local bourse, meaning stock market. My question is, with Trump coming in, it seems like his policies are inflationary. I've exited local tech stocks because of uncertainty. Any thoughts? Yeah. So I would be very long-term focused. If everybody is selling your favorite companies, then I'd probably look to accumulate, right? It's tough to know if something's priced in. But Warren Buffett once said that the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Think about that. Be a contrarian and watch your net worth take off in the long run. In terms of Donald Trump and inflationary, you are correct. Interest rates are going to go up. Okay, so for those of you that have a mortgage and you want to refinance, call your mortgage broker now. But the reason why interest rates are going to go up in the United States, which means many other countries, is two things. Number one, tariffs. So if Trump, I don't think he's going to do it to the extreme I'm about to talk about, but if Trump were to increase tariffs by 25% to Mexico and Canada, Canada's where I'm from, then that would mean that prices would go up for Americans that want to buy, Canadian or, Mexican goods. That's inflationary. Number two, if he does this mass deportation, what that means is the labor market will shrink. And the biggest input into any product or service for the most part is the price of labor. So if supply of labor goes down and demand stays constant or goes up a bit, doesn't even matter. The price of labor will go up. So that's inflationary as well. Now, is it going to be a disaster? No. Why? Because Trump is an extreme capitalist, and his real judge of how he's doing in real time is the stock market. And if the market starts to crash because he puts up these crazy 25% tariffs, obviously he'll pull back. And some people think the market is already priced that in a bit. Now, what I think, the difference between Trump and other politicians, love him or hate him, I'm going to go there. He can get a deal done. It's true. Now, the way it usually works in most negotiations is one party says, I want this. The other party says, I want this. And they meet here in the middle. With Trump, it's different. And I'm going to exaggerate a bit here. With Trump, one party says, I want this. Trump says, I want this. And then they meet here. And so I applaud him for trying to stop the importation of fentanyl, opioids, and other drugs. It's a big crisis. It really is. And for those of you that haven't lost loved ones or friends because of opioids or fentanyl, it will happen. It will happen unless the illegal importation of opioids that can come through various countries and then through maybe Canada or maybe Mexico, various countries, I don't want to go there, but you probably know where from. I want that to stop. And so I believe that the talk of tariffs, for me, the way I interpret it is it could save lives. Now, he hasn't put on the tariffs yet. And he met with Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada this past week in Florida. Justin Trudeau is the guy that wears a red hat that says, make Trudeau a drama teacher again. Just kidding, sort of, not really, actually. He met with him this week. And I think they probably made progress on talking about how to stop the illegal importation of opioids, fentanyl, and other stuff. Okay? So it's a bargaining chip. That's what it is. And will there be tariffs? Yeah. Will they be 25% on every product? Heck no. And I put my reputation on the line when I say that too. So love him or hate him, I think that he is doing certain things that are good for humanity and they'll save lives. Yeah. Okay. And speaking of, I love freedom of speech. Okay, it's one of the great things about the United States and many great countries. And I love the fact that Elon bought Twitter, and I'll tell you why. So during COVID, I had a doctor come on to one of my webcasts. Really smart guy, nice guy. And he just expressed why he's an anti-vaxxer. Now, I got vaccinated. I did. But we all have freedom of choice. So this doctor was an anti-vaxxer. And he just gave his opinion. Why? And because of that, YouTube, Google, that's right, this platform you're using right now, they sent me a warning. And that warning was medical misinformation. And they said, if you do that again, we're going to give you a strike on your channel. Okay. As you can tell, I don't give a damn about politics or appeasing to YouTube for the algorithm to help me at all. I just care about my students and the truth. And that killed me. And I realized at that point in time that freedom of speech is a government thing only, not a platform thing. So I'm in favor of what Elon did with respect to buying Twitter, as it was going in such a direction that was way too left-leaning. Yeah. All right. Oh my goodness. Adiposi, great to see you. Adiposi graduated from my Platinum program. It was the Wednesday class a couple of years ago. And we're launching our 10th one-year Gold and Platinum class January 27th. But Adiposi is from Nigeria originally. He is an architect, great guy. He spends time in Dubai. And his wife, he and his wife started a company called CEO. CEO are his wife's initials. And it's a handbag company, all locally sourced in Nigeria. And our next school after we're done, Kenya, is going to be in Nigeria. Kemi Tade, one of our students you know. And I met with her and she met my dad as well this past summer. And I met her beautiful children. We're building this school next. And I hope you're a part of it. I know you will be. You're an architect, please. So Adiposi, and first time I met Adiposi in one of my courses, he had a very prophetic quote he made up, which is this: with pain, you find your purpose. So I love that. And for Matilda earlier, if you said you're still looking for your purpose, just think about what your biggest pain point is and make a difference. So with me, you know, the pain of my life is, you know, when I was younger, you know, my confidence was really hit because teachers wanted to fail me in the 6th grade and the 8th grade. And they you know, I had to go to a learning disability center to get tested. And that was in Oakville, Ontario, Canada. The Learning Disability Center was called Chisholm on Lakeshore Road, for those of you who live there. And it killed my confidence, man. It killed my confidence. And I wear Lululemon pants down here, by the way. But it absolutely destroyed my confidence. And so that was a pain point for me. And that's why I teach right now. I love to build up the confidence of my students. That's what teachers should do. And I remember my dad joking at the time. He said, you know, if teachers are so smart, why are they still in school? And he also said, those who can't do, teach. And those who can't teach gym class. I love teachers. That was a joke, okay? And I suck at sports. You're all out of luck. Yeah. But that was my pain point. Yeah. But I found my passion later. And that's all I care about, is helping you find your passion. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up. Oh, Andrew, how are you? Andrew is from South Africa. Great guy. He's works in the real estate sector as well. Andrew wrote, I'm a gold MBA student, and I encourage everybody to consider pursuing the MBA. It's incredibly practical, engaging, and enjoyable. Thank you so much. God bless you for that. And if anybody's interested in the MBA program, and so MBA stands for Marry But Available. I'm just kidding. I'm never getting divorced. I hope my wife never leaves me. She won't. But if you want to learn more about this, just go to harounventures.com, harouneducation.com, and then go to MBA Facts, FAQs, and then you can learn more. The next Gold and Platinum class starts January 27th. Okay. Enough of the infomercial, Haroun. Okay. All right. And then thank you, Andrew, for that comment about me being the best teacher. Thanks. Those who can't do, teach. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens as Trump gets rid of the Department of Education. I don't think he'll get rid of it. I think it's the extreme negotiation tactic, as I alluded to earlier. All right. Then KP, who won the contest earlier today for the Silver MBA. Congratulations. KP wrote, what are your thoughts about using a CPA versus H&R chopping block staff for taxes? I mean, H&R block. I'd use a CPA. I started using H&R block years ago when I first started working. And I found that it was kind of cookie cutter to the extent that what they were doing, I could just do a quick tax online or TurboTax. I would actually hire a CPA. I promise you all, if you hire an accountant, a good one, you will likely pay less in taxes legally. You don't know, and I don't know what all the write-offs are. They change all the time. All the time. Looking for a job? Did you get an Uber to go to your interview? Hey, you can write that off. Like little things like that, right? But talk to your lawyer first or your accountant first, because everybody's tax mandate is a little bit different. Yeah. So how do you find an accountant? Well, there's no Yelp. There's no Yelp for accountants, right? It's a really balkanized industry. That was me buying time as I take my jacket off. So the way that you find an accountant is you talk to your successful friends, aunts, uncles, whatever, and ask them to introduce you directly to their accountant. Yeah, there's too much blue here. I'm gonna put this back on. Yeah, that's the only way to do it. I promise you, it's worthwhile. It's a better investment than buying my courses. All right, moving on to Indie Go Kid wrote, hypothetically, if I have to turn $1,000 into $50,000 with crypto, should I sell? My every instinct tells me there are more gains to be made. Yeah. So whenever it comes to any investment, here's what I want you to think about. Okay. Number one, in 10 years, will this company or the sector it's in be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? You got to answer that question. And that's the only question to ask yourself. That's what Warren Buffett does. When Warren Buffett invested in Coca-Cola back in 1990 or so, he still owns it today. He said that, as he says now, whenever I buy a stock, I assume the market's going to be closed for 10 years. That's how long-term focused you got to be. Always. And Anthony Scaramucci, who was part of the Trump administration for a while, Republican, great hedge fund investor actually. He recently said that, his son, who was born in 1992, he invested $1,200 in Microsoft, and he lost the certificate and the brokerage account paperwork. He couldn't find it. And then a couple of years ago, somebody from Goldman Sachs called him, who recognized his last name because, Scaramucci is, he's a famous guy. And they said, we just found this paperwork for your son. Do you want us to send it over to you? He's like, yeah, sure. And, that $1,200 was worth $75,000 in Microsoft. And, Scaramucci said, thank God he didn't know about it, because he probably would have booked profits years ago. You have to be a long-term shareholder. And the great thing about that is you'll be able to sleep at night. You'll be able to focus on, the target price being the destination, not the path. Look at the historical volatility and stock movement of any stock you've loved. And if you panic, you probably sell at the lowest point, and then you buy it back at the highest. Just buy and hold and ignore it. Okay. Think about it like you're never selling it, like real estate. Just be long-term focused. I promise you it works better this way, and you'll sleep at night. Okay. Now, in terms of if you've made a killing on crypto, should you sell? Again, ask yourself that question, the long-term question, 10 years more relevant or less relevant. If you want to sell, I want you to call your accountant first, okay? Because there could be massive tax implications. Now, many years ago, I set up a sizable, humbly, IRA of mine for Bitcoin, right? So it's tax protected. I pay the tax first, right? So as it grows, I don't pay taxes afterwards. Similar to what Peter Thiel did. Peter Thiel has made between $10 and $15 billion on a $6,000 IRA investment, on his investment in Palantir and Facebook. And the way he did it was he put tons of shares of Palantir at 0.001 cent per share or something in his IRA, paid taxes first, and now he doesn't pay taxes on that. Yeah, talk to your lawyer first about that, because if you're a director or a controller in a company, you cannot do that. Okay. And then Boss SMG wrote, it's A and J. Most names start. No, that's not correct, but good call. My son's name is Andrew. My brother's name is James. Yeah, you're right though. It is common. Okay, moving on to thank you again for that donation. Thank you. Next up, Indigo Kid wrote, just want to chime in on crypto. Sure. I would hate if many of my holdings became commodities or securities. For me, the risk gives me the potential for more gain. I see crypto, free speech, unregulated DeFi, meaning deregulated finance. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that if there is regulation, though, and this is why my opinion differs. I used to feel that way, but I felt differently when I found out that whenever I disagree with somebody, I learned that from Dale Carnegie years ago, his course. You use feel, felt, found out as a way to disagree. So instead of saying you're wrong, you say, I used to feel that way, but I felt differently when I found out that. So if cryptos are regulated, okay, what that means is this. That means that there will be SEC documentation like this, which makes people feel more comfortable. Now, imagine if Facebook, ticker Meta, went public, but they didn't do it on Nasdaq, and they didn't care about all this stuff. If they didn't provide this paperwork, the stock would probably be nowhere now. It definitely would be nowhere. And the use of proceeds from this IPO was so they can grow, make acquisitions like buying WhatsApp, etc. So they're much bigger because of regulation. And I think the same thing is going to happen by the same token, with Bitcoin as well. In fact, if you go back to earlier this year, when the first Bitcoin ETF was created, commensurate with when the GLD ETF was created back in 2004, institutions piled in because it implied that regulation may be coming and the government is not going to say no to crypto. Yeah. So anyway. And I remember when I first started investing in cryptos back in, I think it was 2012 or 13 when I joined my first board for cryptocurrency startups. 100% of the ownership was retail. Well, as of earlier this year, well over 50% is institutional investors. That's a big deal, right? And what I used to always do is I would look at mutual fund inflows and outflows. And if lots of money is going into mutual funds, it means the market's going to go up. And if lots of money is going into cryptocurrency ETFs because of institutional inflows, big money, then from a supply-demand perspective, that bodes well in the long run. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Manas, how are you? And thank you for that comment you left on one of my YouTube shorts the other day. You wrote, good day, my dear mentor. Chris, please. Hope all is well. What a day 300 on the horizon. Yeah, my 300th webcast is coming up. And I'm going to have a special guest who may or may not look a little bit like me, who's going to give a very quick presentation. And you're going to laugh at me, not with me. Yeah, that's in 2 weeks. Goes by fast, man. That's one thing you can't get back is time. But I've enjoyed every second. Okay. And then Manas wrote, China banned the export of some chemicals to the United States. Is a trade war on the horizon? I'm not being pessimistic, but yeah. So Trump is, I don't want to say all bark, no bite, but I want to say a lot of bark, a little bite. So I think that there are going to be tariffs on Chinese companies, probably more so in the technology area, especially telecommunications, given the fact that you guys have read about this too, right? A couple of days ago, the biggest telco companies in the United States have been hacked by Chinese hackers and all that stuff, right? It was a stupid time for that to happen. If it was government related in China, I don't know. Stupid because that's going to encourage Trump to, and that's going to hurt China more than the United States. So China is more dependent on the United States than vice versa. Because the United States is, it's the world's biggest economy. It's a massive export market for China. And China is still an export-oriented country. Now, China is trying to develop its own domestic economy to the extent that they're not as reliant in the long run on the United States for exports. And people say that, Chinese communists are the best capitalists, but they're very long-term focused. But they're more reliant on the U.S. than vice versa. And if a massive tariff war is initiated by China, I think it could mean some civil unrest in China, which is certainly not something anybody wants to see. It'll make Tiananmen Square look like a blip. Because back then in 1989, the Tiananmen Square uprising, CNN was lucky that they had cameras there. The fluke. These are everywhere now. Yeah. Okay. But what Biden, I'm so upset just with what's happened in the past week. A couple things. The pardoning, of course, is an issue. But what bothers me is also the weapons being sent to Ukraine, like American weapons, and yeah, it's frightening. But in a couple of months, that might not be an issue. Yeah. Okay. All right, Abigail. Let me move on. Sorry, but I got political today. Abigail, how are you? Good to see you again. Abigail wrote, any chance of the HEV, Haroun Education Ventures, offering a DBA, meaning a Doctor of Business Administration course in the future? So what I'm doing next, so I just published a real estate elective for y'all to get for free. And after this forensic accounting course comes out, Q1 of next year, I'm laser focused on partnering with my CMO to create the mother of all online marketing courses. And my focus is and you'll get it for free. Any MBA student that buys or will buy my MBA program will get it for free. My goal next year is to teach everybody how to sell and sell online. Because starting a company, it's not that hard to come up with a good idea. But the toughest thing about any company is selling that stuff. Your go-to-market strategy. And I'm going to teach y'all how to sell on steroids next year. And every successful entrepreneur, founder, CEO, prime minister, president, whatever, they get there because they can sell. And I recently gave a presentation to one of the largest semiconductor companies, the entire company. And it was, on selling and presenting all that stuff. And I asked the audience, how do you decide who to buy from? And I think it was a C-level executive that answered by saying, the funny thing is, we often decide who to buy from based on the confidence of the presenter during the presentation. Confidence is everything. And I remember when I worked at venture capital, during the evenings, I would teach here in the Bay Area at several universities. And I remember growing up in Canada, seeing the cover of Time and Newsweek in the 80s was, the downfall of the American child, the downfall of the American student, grades, yada, 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 yada. They're 50th in world math, 50th in world science. But people don't realize something. And what I'm about to say is not a raw America thing. Because 50% of the students, at least in the Bay Area that I taught, were born overseas. So American students, regardless of where they were born, are number one in the most important economic category that nobody talks about, which is confidence. With confidence, you can sell. With confidence, you can make something really boring like cloud computing sound awesome. And that's exactly what Mark Benioff did when he founded Salesforce.com back in 1999. He can sell, and he's confident. Quite often, you got to be careful with confidence because when you use ChatGPT, it can quite often be confidently wrong. But it gives a perception that it's competent. Confidence leads to perceived competence. And in my MBA program, I teach you from a personal growth perspective how to materially increase your confidence as well. All right. Okay, Manas wrote, where do you see LLM, meaning large language models, and programming going? Like, it's cool to know some programming anyway. LLM will write and spec code. Yeah. So Jensen Huang, the brilliant founder and CEO of NVIDIA, he was recently interviewed, and it's fascinating. He basically said, don't study computer science anymore in university. And I was shocked he said that. But his rationale made sense. He said this: AI is perfect for programming. Why do we have to learn all this coding stuff when AI can help us? Right? And it's extreme comments, right? And I agree with them a little bit. I still think it's important to understand programming from a high level perspective. And so the follow-up question was, well, what do you suggest students study then? And he said, well, the American educational system will pass the rest of the world in the next couple of years, and here's why. I recommend studying liberal arts. And in the United States, unlike other countries, in the United States, in university, you don't declare a major until your second or third year. So you study liberal arts, initially. And the good thing about that, per Jensen Huang, is it teaches you how to communicate, speak gooder and stuff. It also teaches you how to be innovative and think differently. In fact, Steve Jobs used to always say that Apple lives at the intersection of technology and liberal arts. And we all remember his Think Different campaign. Okay. Carolyn, how are you? I'm looking forward to seeing you later on today at 10 a.m. That's right. Yeah. Of course, ask questions here too, but I love to see you on Zoom, all my students as well. Tous les enfants sont ici. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas from Calcutta, where one of my heroes was born. Mother Teresa, of course, wrote, Bitcoin at $100,000. I saw it the first time when it was 5,000, when I was 18, long ago. We've come a long way. Do you see ETX going supply? Yeah, I know what you're getting at there. So on this weekly webcast, many times over the years, many times, I've always publicly disclosed, because transparency builds trust, publicly disclosed what I own in cryptos. And that is Bitcoin, which is my largest position, Ethereum, Litecoin, which is like Bitcoin's little brother or sister. And then also, and I'm buying time to think of what the hell I own, Ripple. That's right, yeah. So I've disclosed those. Yeah. So the problem with Ethereum is, well, I love Ethereum, Ether or whatever, because it's a platform, and I love investing in platforms. So Apple is the quintessential platform. They own the road, they charge the cars. They get 30% of all of my course sales when I sell them on iOS. LinkedIn is a platform for social media. Facebook is a platform as well for social media, etc. You want to invest in the road that charges the cars, platforms. And so Ethereum is a platform. It's a platform because 70% or so of all cryptos that go public, meaning ICOs or initial coin offerings, crypto offerings, 70% of them do it on the Ethereum platform. Also, most NFTs, remember those things? Most NFTs are created on that platform as well. The problem with Ethereum, and the reason why my Bitcoin position has always been bigger than my Ethereum position, is that there is no limit on supply. Yeah. Okay. All right, next up, Dane. Hey, Dane. Dane wrote, Dane Hutchins wrote, Robert M. Hutchins was an American educational philosopher. He was president from 1929 to 45 and subsequently chancellor of University of Chicago years ago. It's a great school, by the way, yeah. He had a famous, and that's where Satya Nadella went, CEO of Microsoft. He had a famous quotation, and that is, be ashamed to die until you've done something great for humanity. Oh, I love that. Oh, I'm going to use that and pretend I said it. No, I'm going to use that. Thank you. Be ashamed to die until you've done something great for humanity. I love that. It gives us a purpose, a passion. Yeah. And don't be afraid to fail either, right? So one of my favorite quotes, and you can get something like this from Etsy and put it on your wall. Stope, it's cool. I failed over and over again in my career, and that's why I succeed. Michael Jordan. I love that quote. You only have to be right in business one time. Take a chance. Yeah, and don't give a damn what people think yet either. All right, next up, Manas wrote, I had to ask you, why will Trump consider any parameter anyway? It's his last term apparently, and why will he care? He has a lot of stake in cryptos and owns exchanges. Why will he care? Yeah, I didn't know he had a stake in cryptos or owns exchanges. Yeah. So okay, so Trump believes in deregulation. And this is one of the reasons why bank stocks have gone up a lot. JP Morgan is up like 50% this year or so. Deregulation is good. And even Jeff Bezos, has recently said in an interview with, Sorkin from the New York Times that he kind of likes what Trump is doing because deregulation is good for the markets. So if you think about it this way, if let's say that tons of regulation was created, right, to, I don't know, make it harder for banks to lend money, or tons of regulation was created to make it harder for Coca-Cola to sell sugar water, or if tons of regulation was created to make it harder for any company to produce these things, of course it's going to be bad for the economy longer term. So I'm a libertarian. I believe in small government. I loved Ronald Reagan growing up. He's the reason I came to the United States from Canada, although I'm proud to be Canadian, except for the liberal-leaning left prime minister. I don't want to go there, but his name rhymes with Rustin Rudeau. Yeah. So deregulation works. Small government is good. And that's why, in Silicon Valley or any tech center in the world, 2 guys and 2 girls in a garage can change the world. Because it's not bureaucratic. Like, think about it at your company, or if you're in school now. If you're in a group meeting and there's 20 people in the meeting, it's a disaster, man. Too many cooks in the kitchen. Deregulate that meeting so there's only 3 people in it, so to speak, and more stuff gets done. All right. Next, hey, Dave, how are you? Dave, great to see you. Thank you very much for the LinkedIn comment the other day. I appreciate that. So Dave wrote here, hey, Chris, wanted everyone to know the value provided by the Venture Capital Bootcamp in semester 3 of the MBA program is worth more than the cost of the entire MBA program. God bless. Thank you. God bless you too. Appreciate it. Thank you. And I hope to see you today as well as I usually do. Oops. Let me go to where the link is. It's right here. Yeah, right here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then JK wrote, I love your deadpan corny Justin Trudeau joke. Thank you. Thank you. And you wrote that all in caps, like my grandfather did. And Grandpa, I know you were not yelling at me when you typed in caps. It's just what you did. Okay. Okay. All right, next up. Oh, Tanya, how are you? Miss T, Tanya, great to see you. So Tanya graduated from my program. I think it was a year or 2 ago, my platinum program. She works in private equity in Toronto. She's great. She wrote, I'm in a Zoom meeting on buying businesses, but appreciate you so much in your support. I'm looking on how I can do consulting. Awesome. And I recommend everybody that is not sure what company you want to start a consulting business. Now, there's over 130,000 consulting firms in North America because there's no startup costs. It's really easy. And if anybody wants to talk about starting your own consulting firm, I can help you with that as well. Yeah, cool. All right, moving on to Manas, my silver MBA student and good buddy from Calcutta, wrote, will the Canadian economy be affected if tariffs are put on? And how much can you please give a practical explanation? Yeah. And then Linda McMahon is now the head of the Department of Education, and she owns WWE. I think she worked at WWE. Yeah. So yeah, I think that, look, Trump is really close to Canada, and what he said, I'm going to show you something in a second. What he basically said was tariffs are going to be really, really high unless we figure out how to stop drugs from coming in from Mexico and the United States, or Canada and Mexico into the United States. I like that, don't you? I think that's smart. Everybody wins. So let me show you a post that he did here. I didn't know how to read this, man. This will be worth it. Give me a second here. All right. Did he take it down? No. He said something about Canada, and a lot of people are thinking, could Canada join the United States as like the 51st state? Could it happen? Oh my God, I think he removed it. He never does this. Wow. He had one of his posts here. I've never seen him remove a post, dude. It was a picture of him with the Canadian flag, like saluting it or something. Wow, he removed it. Yeah, because a lot of people, a lot of people on social media are saying, should Canada join the United States? This is where it gets controversial. So I want all the Canadians on this call. Should Canada join the United States? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm going to give you the pros and the cons. Okay. The pros. Okay. Number one, and I'm proud to be Canadian. Okay. Number one, taxes could be lower. Number two, there would be no tariffs at all, obviously. Number three, you would have term limits. I think it's insanity that Justin Trudeau can be prime minister for 8 million years. Okay. Cons. You might have to pay for part of your health care. Canadian pride is an issue, obviously. You know, Canada wants to be its own country. Americans wearing a Canadian flag on their backpack when they're hiking through Europe will no longer work for them, etc. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, okay? And you can only answer this question if you're Canadian. Should they become part of America or not? Okay. Okay, one person wrote, yes, the U.S. should join Canada. Yeah, okay. We'll see if other questions come. That's kind of a okay, here we go. Chibike wrote, yes, Canada should join. Wow. It should be at least 5 states. Interesting. I think what's going to happen, I think Justin Trudeau is going to lose the next election by a landslide. And I think a conservative is going to win in Canada. One of the issues with Pierre, though, who heads up the Conservative Party, is he might come across as a little bit too confident. Yeah. But I like a lot of his ideas. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, more Canadians. Let me know. Wow. Okay, so, one data point doesn't make a trend. 2 does. Okay. So now 2 say yes, 1 say no. Okay, KP is Canadian, my people. I love it. Okay. Okay. And that was a resounding no. It wasn't no, it was no. Yeah. Okay. It's just a question. Just curious. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Okay. Next up, Endika wrote, hey, Chris, I just want to know, what's your take on insurance? And God bless the CEO of the shooting in New York. I'm sure you guys saw it. What's your take on insurance and investing linked products, as well as the role of financial consultant has in our community? I'm thinking of being one despite the stigma. Yeah, a couple things. I don't ever like buying stocks or investing through an insurance company. Okay, so sometimes for insurance policies, you can buy it and they'll say, hey, we'll invest your money for you as well and all that stuff. You don't understand, humbly, the hidden fees. So call them, and every time there's a complicated financial product, what that means is you're paying a ton of fees you don't know about. Call up customer service and say this. Explain the fees to me. If I invest $100, whatever, they'll explain it to you. You're going to be confused still. At least I am. Then you say, good. No, not good. You say, well, I'm going to explain it back to you now, okay? And I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong. You explain it back, rinse, lather, repeat over and over again until they say, I agree. Yeah. So I don't recommend it. Now, in terms of you working in private wealth management, I think it's a fantastic career. I think it's the best career in all of finance. And the reason I say that, private wealth management means it's like being a stockbroker, but for rich people. And you get a 1% fee per year and more. But the great thing about private wealth management is 2 things. Number one, it's sad to say, in the next decade, we're going to see the biggest generational transfer of wealth in history as the baby boomers move on. And number 2, it's the only industry within finance where you can work at a big firm like a Goldman Sachs, for example, and leave and take your clients with you. Yeah, PWM, private wealth management. But you have to be good at sales, which I teach in my programs, obviously. Okay. All right, next up, Miss T wrote, I said I was going to buy a travel company because I love travel, but I'm also interested in buying a consulting company. Yeah. I would start one instead of buying one. And if you want today, during office hours, per the message below, just join the Zoom call you always do at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and I'll explain why. Okay. All right. Danny Drives, DD, wrote, any ETA, even if soft estimate of when the next Billions video will drop, I'm in withdrawal. Thank you. Oh boy, okay, I'm going to do this to myself. Okay. By the end of this year, I want to get at least one more out. And what Danny Drives is referring to is, if you go to my website, go to YouTube here, what I do is, so I do a Billions video. I've done the first 2 or 3 seasons, like 20 or 30 episodes, etc. I'll do it before the end of the year. There you go. Now I have to get it done. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. And then JK wrote, high winds, frequent power interruptions here. Yeah, I don't even know where you're based. Let me know where you at, man. I'm assuming Canada, right? Yeah. All right, moving on to Thomas, who wrote, hedge funds just for the crypto industry, especially for DAOs. How to do analysis on those decentralized organizations. Yeah. There's 2 ways to do it. One way is to do a write-up, and I'm going to show you here one of the many templates of my MBA program. Okay, so it doesn't matter what company you're doing research on. You do qualitative, quantitative, and financial research on the company, and I ask you 730 questions on 100 tabs here. And what comes out of this is a 1-page, and this is dummy data, executive research report you can print out or save as a PDF. And what also comes out of it is a massive detailed report. And then third or threeth, as my son Andrew used to say, a dashboard as well, based on what you enter in. And for those of you in the MBA program, just go to EMS 4-2. That's Economics Management and Strategy, Semester 4, class number 2. Okay. Let's try this angle. Now you see how messy I am here. And I'm trying to put on 20 pounds of muscle in 6 months. I put on 3 pounds already, actually, in the past 3 weeks. I know that's crazy, but I am eating a ton of protein shakes. I am starved all the time. Yeah. So anyway, I'm oddly very good at this. All right, let me move on to the next question. Okay. Okay, next question is Pangsit Goreng wrote, one of my stocks takes forever to turn around. Do you have any advice on how to filter these slow-moving stocks? Absolutely. Okay, so don't ever invest in a company that is transitioning from growth to value. You won't make money, okay, in most cases. Let me explain what that means. There's 2 camps of investors. You're either a value investor like Warren Buffett, which means you like to buy cheap stuff that's not growing fast. That's a value investor. Or you're a growth investor like me. You like to buy stuff that looks expensive that's growing very, very fast. And a lot of times when people are in school, they start out as value investors because, the moronic professors will say, always buy stuff with a low PE. Well, that's not how it works. Because if you're a growth investor, you create your own financial model and your earnings estimates may be way higher in 5 or 10 years. Okay, so now that we understand that there's value investors and growth investors, it's like religion, they hate each other, right? So in between value and growth, okay? In between value and growth, there's something called GARP, right? And GARP stands for growth at a reasonable price. Hardly anybody is in this camp here. And I mention this because every growth company, every company that grows really fast, eventually transitions to become a value investment. And usually it's if the company is too big. Like the United States economy, it used to be a growth economy. But now it doesn't grow more than 2 or 3% per year because it's so big, a lot of large numbers. Now the transition from growth to value can take a decade. And you're in no man's land. It's investment purgatory. And I don't ever want you to invest in a company that is transitioning. Because the likelihood that it becomes goes from growth to value overnight is very, very small. It's a dead investment for quite a while. It can take a decade. Like General Electric was a fabulous growth investment for years. Then it transitioned to value over time. It took forever for that to happen. Yeah. So, and what can cause a company to go from growth to value faster is if, an activist investor like Carl Icahn comes in to invest. And he can make this whole GARP process really short and unlock shareholder value. Classic example is this. With eBay, years ago, and I met with John Donahoe, who's the founder the CEO of eBay many times, big tall guy. What happened was with eBay, and he was pushed out, by the way, I think, by Carl Icahn. But with eBay, investors didn't want to buy it. Why? Because half the company was value, meaning eBay core, marketplace that throws off a lot of cash, and it's countercyclical because during recessions people sell their used stuff more often. And the other half of the company was a growth component called PayPal, which is growing like a weed. And so value investors didn't want to invest in the PayPal part of it. And growth investors didn't want to invest in the sleepy auction place business that wasn't growing fast, but threw off a lot of cash. And so investors were confused. And so nobody wanted to buy it because, again, you're either a growth investor or a value investor, more or less. And so what Carl Icahn did was he bought, 20, 30% of the company. And when you do that, you can have a seat at the table on the board. You can make decisions and push people out. And he restructured the company. And he broke the company up into two pieces. Okay. One was the value component, meaning the eBay marketplace business called eBay now. And the other one was called PayPal. And growth investors loved it because they could invest in PayPal. And value investors loved it because they can invest in a sleepy marketplace business that throws off a lot of cash. And the market cap, both companies, way, way higher than core eBay before it was broken up into two companies. So the bottom line is this: don't ever invest in a company if it's transitioning from growth to value. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, in your and my lifetime, do we see another crypto organization beat Bitcoin in terms of popularity and market cap? Come on, you know the answer. Absolutely. Absolutely. Competition is a good thing for the consumer. When there's a red hot marketplace, other companies will come out to dominate. Yahoo dominated search for a while. Remember, do you Yahoo? And then a better mousetrap was created in late 1999, released in beta. Then it was Google. I'm still looking for the Google of cryptos. I haven't found it yet. Okay, Brandon wrote, hey, can you talk about the private equity and credit secondaries market? Yeah. So I'm going to do that in a lot more detail, the credit secondary market, when I release my video on the Big Short. But if you want to talk about, from a high-level perspective, the bond market, okay, where I touch a little bit upon that, here's what you can do. You go directly to my YouTube channel. And on my YouTube channel, just search for bonds. See if this comes up. Yeah. And then just watch this one here. So I talk about bond investing explained, where I touch upon that. I use a ton of props as always. Okay. Yeah. So I printed out a bunch of bonds. These are pretend, of course. And I explain how the process works. And I touch a little bit upon CDOs and MBOs as well. Okay, and I go right to the source to get all the data, etc. But you can check that out if you want to. Yeah. In terms of private equity, so yeah, I'll talk about private equity quickly. Sure. So private equity is similar to a hedge fund in that they make money by charging 2 and 20 usually, and that means a 2% annual management fee and 20% of the profits. The difference, though, in private equity firms, what they do is they can invest in private companies and public companies. Quite often what they do is they buy public companies, take them private, make them better, and then sell it back and make a lot of money, like Henry Kravis has done. And I got to meet with Henry Kravis, actually. He started KKR with Mr. K and Mr. R. I got to meet him when I was at Columbia. He went to Columbia as well and gave a great speech one day. Yeah. But so private equity, the way it works and what makes it different from a hedge fund is, as an investor, what happens is you sign documentation saying, I'm going to invest $1 million. And you don't give that money to the private equity firm, though, until they find an idea to invest in. And then what they do is there's something called a capital call, where they'll call you and say, hey, it's John Smith from the private equity firm. I'm calling you to get your capital because we just found an investment. We're going to put 10% of the fund in this company. Your paperwork says you're investing $1 million, so give us $100,000. That's a capital call. So it's a little bit different. And private equity, they're very valuation conscious. Obviously, they look at EBITDA multiples, etc. Now, if you want to learn more about private equity in a really fun way, I want you to watch a movie called Other People's Money. Okay, and it's with Danny DeVito, and he's called Larry the Liquidator, and he runs a private equity firm. Yeah, but like with all movies, thank you, Hollywood. Like with all movies, the rich dude is wrong in the end, loses in the end. It's true. Every Hollywood movie. Yeah. It drives me crazy when these people in Hollywood make a lot of money, and they come out and they start leaning way too left, and they start discussing policies. Stick to acting. Yeah. I'm opinionated today. I know. I'm going to get more opinionated going forward. Okay. All right. And then Viking Financial wrote, thanks so much, Chris. You're most welcome. And then you write, I was literally getting my tooth filled during this. We are living in the future now. Very cool. Okay. All right. And then Prism828 wrote, of course, there is Scott Galloway. He tells us that everyone telling you that you will get rich with your passion is an iron smelting billionaire who is finding his passion on yachts and Formula One racing. Yeah. I don't know who Scott Galloway is, though, but thank you. Yeah. All right. Luca wrote, any thoughts on prop firms? Yeah. So you're probably talking about proprietary trading. Yeah. And so all investment banks on their trading floor, they usually have a proprietary trading group that will, it's one or two traders that will trade certain sectors like commodities. Another one does tech, etc. Yeah. As long as it's not day trading, I'd have to, first of all, look at their track record, etc. I don't think there's anything wrong with investing 3 to 6 months based on technical analysis a bit, but not day trading. I'm adamantly against that. Yeah. And if you want to learn more about why I'm against day trading, just search my YouTube channel. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, where's Japan going? Inflation is high. Interest rates are about to go up. The economy stagnated for decades. Birth rate going down. Where's it going to be in 100 years? Yeah. It breaks my heart because the population of Japan now is 130 million. It's going down to 80 million in a couple decades. People just aren't getting married anymore. It really, really breaks my heart, and I don't know the answer. Yeah. But I hope they turn around. All right, next up, Prism828 wrote, Walter Isaacson, who wrote a couple of great books. I think I'm listening to it right now. Alexa, read my book.
Resuming Elon Musk from Audible. There's about 5 minutes left in this chapter and about 3 hours.
Alexa, stop. Yeah. So that's Isaacson's book. I'm listening to it for the second time on Elon Musk. You guys got to listen to it. It's fantastic. Yeah. So, yeah, he wrote the bio of Jobs, Musk, Da Vinci, Franklin. Yeah. Said he learned innovation comes from crossing over disciplines others do not see. Why liberal arts is so good. Yes. Per my comment earlier about the CEO founder of NVIDIA talking about studying liberal arts. Yes. Okay. And when I was an undergrad, the only time I took liberal arts courses was to get an easy A. It's true. Like I remember there was one called Planets, Stars, and Galaxies, of course, and we called it Moons for Goons, or Rocks for Jocks. I took another one called The Art of Music, which I enjoyed, actually. I learned a lot about jazz. the art of music, which we call clapping for credits. Yeah. And I took art history as well. So I can meet women. Didn't work though. Yeah. Okay. And then you wrote here, Yale Med School makes students study art history to enhance and strengthen the powers of observation. Interesting. That's smart. That's smart. Yeah. And I had a buddy who's, oh my God, his mom used to always brag he got into Yale. And I remember she would say this, you know, my son Ricky, he's so smart, he got into jail. Okay. All right, moving on to Sanjay, who's in my gold MBA program that started in January of this year, which ends on December 17th, on Tuesday. Yeah. So Sanjay wrote, hey, Chris, on Monday you said, during class, drink 3 liters of water before how many hours of bed should you stop drinking? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember mentioning that. Yeah. So what I did and what I mentioned during Monday's class was I try to get 20 or 30,000 steps in per day. And then I also try to drink an entire thing of vodka, so I have more confidence when I'm presenting. I'm just kidding. So what I do is this. So below my desk here, and I've showed you guys this before, you can get this for about $100. This treadmill on Amazon. Please do it. Okay. So what I do is I walk usually at about this speed. Okay. So this is like 3 miles an hour all day. And if you do this, you easily get in at least 30,000 steps. Okay. And then what I do is I bring my desk up so I can type and stuff. And I wear my Apple Watch in my pocket so it counts steps, right? And it works well. And I try to, every time I get off the treadmill, I have to take 2 big sips of this. And so my goal, now you see how messy it is, My goal is to finish this every day. Do I finish it every day? Heck no. Right here, I'm supposed to be at 9 a.m., so I'm already behind schedule. It's 9:40 right now. I got to wrap up this call soon. But anyway, and I got that from Amazon as well. Okay, let me go back here, turn off the walker, and go back into professional. I'm not messy mode. Okay. All right. In terms of when do I stop drinking water, I drink all the way up until bedtime. I have a sippy cup in my bed as well. You should never be thirsty, ever. But your body is freaking out if you're ever thirsty. Yeah. Okay. And it helps with your skin and all that stuff too. Yeah. Okay. And I monitor everything as well. I just ordered the new Oura Ring. So Gen 4. This is Gen 3. The battery stopped working. Every consumer electronics company in the world, there should be a Senate oversight hearing committee grilling on tech companies saying that the battery lasts 7 days or, I don't know, 2 days or whatever it is. It's all a lie. It never lasts that long. Kind of like internet companies like Comcast, that's right, saying that you will get 1 gigabyte upload speeds or downloads. It's all BS. Okay. All right, moving on. Tien wrote, hi from Vietnam. Great to see you. I'd love to go to Vietnam. I played Tomb Raider many times. It looks beautiful. No, I'd love to go there. And I will go there one day. Yeah. I have a lot of students from Vietnam. And actually in Canada, the 2 biggest immigrant groups in the late 1960s were from Egypt, where my dad immigrated from, and Vietnam as well. Yeah. And I love Vietnamese food is the best because there's not much carbs like the spring rolls and stuff. Yeah, I don't know anybody from Vietnam overweight. Okay. Manas wrote, is population a problem in India? We say we have too many people, and the world says there are too many less. Yeah, what are your thoughts? Yeah. I hope India continues to grow significantly because it's the world's biggest democracy. And I think if a country might one day, in the very long run, replace the, replace the US dollar as a world reserve currency, my bet is it could be India one day, if any country's ever going to do it. Yeah, I'm incredibly bullish on India. In terms of population issues, I'm not the best person to ask about that. Yeah. But I love India. Okay. All right. Next up, and I've got a couple more minutes for questions. I'm not going to be able to answer all of them. For those of you that want to ask me over Zoom, you can join the Silver MBA program, and then just go to the very first lecture, and then you'll get the link for the weekly Zoom call. Okay. All right. All right, so Prism 8828 wrote, deregulation created to make it harder to lend money, ? Like Glass-Steagall, ? Pull it off and you get the 2008 crash, ? Yeah, let's have another mortgage meltdown. Regs prevent that. Yeah. So whenever there's a financial crisis, new legislation is created, right, to protect consumers. It happened with the SEC back in the 1930s. It happened after the dot-com bubble in 01 with Regulation FD, fair disclosure. And it happened in 2008 as well. Congressman Bernard Frank kind of headed up that committee. Yeah, within reason. You can't deregulate too much. Like with Glass-Steagall, I remember it was back pre-Glass-Steagall. I was doing consulting in North Carolina, working on the merger of Nations Bank and Bank of America. And I remember Nations Bank had a subsidiary that was spelt B-A-N-C instead of B-A-N-K, just to get around that regulation. Yeah. I don't think things will get too crazy when it comes to mortgage meltdowns. A lot of precautions have been put in place. Yeah. Okay. All right. Devon wrote, hey, Chris, I'll soon finish the MBA program. Congratulations. And for those of you in the gold, platinum, or diamond program, I'm holding my next graduation and in-person networking event here in the Bay Area on September 27th. Put it on your calendar. It's going to be the entire weekend for September 27th, 28th. So 27th, that's a Saturday. Then on Sunday for platinum and diamond students, I do one-on-ones all day. And then on the Monday, September 29th, we're all going to go together and tour, some cool stuff like, I don't know, Napa Valley and stuff. And I don't drink anymore, but I don't drink any less. It'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And you guys, by the way, for my students, if you come to the Bay Area for that, you always have a place to stay. What I mean by that is the San Francisco Hilton, the San Francisco Ramada, the San Francisco Holiday Inn. I'm just kidding. I might actually do it at my house this year or next year. Yeah, it'll be fun. Actually, I don't want anybody staying in the city. It's too dangerous. I want you staying by the airport in Burlingame or Boringame, close to where I live. Okay. And then he wrote, Devon wrote, I want to thank you for putting so much hard work in the MBA program for us. Really appreciate it. It's so informative. Best. Thank you. God bless you. There's lots more to come. Lots more electives you'll get for free forever. Okay. And then Prism wrote, I bought 5-year classes the other night, by the way. Thank you. All right. Interesting. Okay. So earlier on, I asked just Canadians on I don't want to get in trouble for saying this. Should Canada join the United States? And let's see. I've got yes, yes, no, yes. Okay, I'll do this way. Yes, yes, no, yes, no. Interesting. So slightly more, limited data points sort of makes a trend. Slightly more say yes. It's interesting. Yeah. It's so fascinating. And I have a lot of students I'll do one-on-one calls with, diamond consulting clients, etc., that are in Canada that say they want to move to the U.S. for business reasons. I'm very proud of where I come from. Okay, but it's interesting. All right. Okay, so Devon wrote, how can we define strengths and weaknesses of the CEO of a company in the qualitative section? Yeah, you mean question 11 on that dashboard, yeah. What can be examples, please? Yeah. So when it comes to analyzing a management, I'll show you what Devon is referring to. Okay, so one of the templates I provide you with, I give you templates for everything in my MBA program, is this one here, where you analyze a company. And I always have you start with the management team, okay? So I ask questions like, how long have they been CEO of the company? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Yada, yada, yada. And whenever you look at SEC filings, okay, like the 10K especially, in the 10K, you can read up on a bio on each member of the management team, the CEO. It's all in there, including what they make. What you can also do is you can go to LinkedIn to see where they were before. Did they have a successful exit in a previous company? Did they enhance shareholder value in the previous company they were CEO of, etc.? So you can always backtrack it that way, backtest it that way. You can also watch interviews with them on YouTube, for example, to see if they're great salespeople, right? And you can always look at the track record. Same thing with CFOs. You can always analyze and use what's called behavioral finance. And speaking of University of Chicago, a couple of great economists came out of there, Fuller and Taylor. They got a Nobel Prize for this. You can use behavioral finance to see, if these CFO have been successful in the past. All you have to do is this. Back test to see what guidance was for every quarter forever at the companies the CFO worked at. And did they report near the high end or above the high end of guidance? Were they consistently beating and raising, beating and raising, beating and raising? You can always quantify this stuff. What you can also do is, before you join any company, you go to glassdoor.com, type in the company name, and you'll get feedback on the senior executives. And they're scored as well, usually out of 100%. So you can quantify that score as well, and you can read all the comments. Yeah. And there's a lot more things I talk about in the MBA program too. Okay. And then Manas wrote, "Thank you for everything, my mentor. God bless you and your family forever and ever. Let's make Trudeau great again. No, let's make Trudeau a drama teacher again." Yeah. Thank you. God bless you. Yeah, I'll see you in a couple of minutes during our weekly 10 a.m. call. Yeah. Excellent. All right. Next up, Hossam wrote, "Hey, Chris, in tech consulting and the training business, what are the most important things? For example, KPIs, meaning key performance indicators, or so, to watch for to ensure things are going fine." Yeah. Woo. So when it comes to consulting companies, I usually look at billable hours, times the price per hour. Right. So when you're selling a product, you obviously want the volume to go up and the price to go up. So when you're selling a service, the product is consulting, right? You want the number of hours billing to be going up, and you want the price to slowly be going up over time, at least more so than the price of inflation. And with any industry, if price and volume are increasing, that's a great business model. You also want to look at the unbillable rate, right, which can destroy a consulting company. Yeah, meaning, are there many consultants that are on the beach? I used to work at Accenture years ago, and that was one of the biggest issues with the company at that point in time was people that were not staffed, consultants that were sitting on the beach. Yeah. Now, the great thing about running a consulting company like Accenture is you can mark up big time how much you bill each consultant. So when I started working at Accenture, I made $29,000 my first year Canadian. I thought it was all the money in the world. After taxes and everything, it was like $9 an hour. And they worked me hard. But I was billed out at $150 an hour. So what you want to do is you always want to look at your gross margins, right? So this is an income statement. So for a consulting firm here, revenue is going to be what you bill your clients. Cost of goods sold is going to be the cost of consulting services, like the $9 an hour I made. And you want to look at gross profit margins as well. And what you want to do is you want to compare your gross profit margins to what other consulting companies have gross profit margin wise. And you can always go to sec.gov, type up ACN, that's ticker for Accenture, the quintessential technology consulting firm. They went public back in, I think it was like 04 or something. Alexa, stop. I got to wrap this up. They went public back in 04 or something. And you look to see what their margins are and have been over time. Yeah. Okay. All right. And I know there's a lot more questions, and I feel bad. I'm not going to be able to answer all of them, but I'm going to try my best. Okay. All right. I'll go through these ones fast. And for those of you that are silver, gold, platinum, diamond students, you can ask me in the next couple hours during our office hours as well. Okay, give me a second here. All right, so Tom wrote, hey, is it a bad idea to create a firm for trading financial assets with 5 people, but value investing and be profitable early on in the future like Warren? How does that work? So Warren Buffett is the antithesis of trading. His methodology, it's value investors, which is long-term focused. I wouldn't start with 5 people. I don't know how much in terms of AUM you want to look to raise assets under management. But if you start with just raising a couple $1 million, you can probably do it with 1 or 2 people initially. Especially if you're long-term focused. But I wouldn't put trading and Buffett or value investing in the same sense. And if I misinterpreted that, please rephrase the question. And if you have follow-ups, let me know. Okay. All right. And then Plano B for Life wrote, hey, Chris, I'm a Udemy instructor myself. Awesome. I want to sell my courses through my website with a different price, higher. But I'm afraid that students will be angry about that when they discover. Well, what you can do is you can match the price, right? So if you, this is what I actually, for my legacy older stuff. Now, my MBA programs, all this 500 hours of new content, it's not on Udemy, it's on my website only. But my legacy stuff, which I give away to my MBA students, my legacy stuff, the way I price it is I match. So if you go to, I don't know, a complete financial analyst course on Udemy of mine, and it's $94.59 or whatever, I don't know, some price like that, I'll do the same price. And of course, that doesn't include discounting. Okay. All right. And Plano B Life, if you want to talk about that in more detail, you can always just set up a call with him. I'm happy to do a Zoom with you. And the way to set up a Zoom with me, I'll show you. And for anybody who wants to get mentored by me, here's what you do. Just go to my website, HarounEducation.com. And then here under my person, there's a blue box. You click that just to set up a Zoom with me. I think I have a slot or 2 available today too if you want to talk. Okay. And then Andy wrote, thanks for the answer, Chris. You're most welcome. You mentioned about joining private wealth management. Yes. Any suggestions to what degree I should choose for it? I'll be graduating college in a year, and I'm not sure which degree to take for it. Tell you what, set up a call with me using the link I just showed at Plano B, and I'll help you out. We'll do it over Zoom. It'll be a 20-minute call, and I'll set you up for good. Okay. And KP wrote, I'm blessed with too many passions. That's a good thing. All right. Next up, Letitia wrote, hey, Letitia, first time seeing the call. Hope you join us again. I love your emojis too, music. Letitia wrote, any thoughts on dividend stocks? It depends what kind of investor you are. Usually if you invest in high dividend yielding stocks, you're more of a value investor. And then what you can do is just reinvest the dividends if you want to. Now, one strategy that a lot of investors use is the dogs of the Dow strategy. And what that means is this. The Dow 30 components, 30 companies that kind of represent the U.S. economy. What they do is they take the top 5 companies in the Dow by dividend yield. They sort by dividend yield, and they invest in them. And then they reinvest the dividends automatically to buy more shares. Now, I want you to be careful when it comes to dividends, please. Because if you ever see a dividend yield that's way over 10%, like 25% or something, the market is saying it's not sustainable, or it was a one-time special dividend, or Yahoo Finance or wherever you get your stats from made a mistake. Don't ever invest in a stock that has an insanely high dividend yield, because it could mean that the market is implying they won't be able to make that dividend and maybe even go under. Always do your own research. And in my MBA degree program, what I recommend doing before buying any stock for the long term is go to EMS4, Alexa stop, EMS4-2, and then just fill out this here as well. Okay, I do have to go. For those of you in the silver program, I will see you in a minute. God bless you all, and I'll see you next week and every week forever. Thank you. Take care.